But Ben, doesn't that sort of, to some degree, oversimplify the issue? Because you've got decisions that would clearly, scientists should make moral decisions and not engage in certain types of science because they're clearly to the detriment of other people. They would be regarded as being criminal if they did some of those things. But that's not the same thing as saying that everyone should morally regulate what they do when the outcome is not clear. And that clearly when you have underpinning technologies, and we're both doing very basic research, and we cannot anticipate what applications those will be used for, but if on the sum of it, one thinks that there are potential serious benefits from a particular activity, in a way there's a moral imperative to continue that work.
I couldn't agree more, I think, but if we can see examples, other walks of life where people are constantly pushing the envelope, in art, in literature, they do that in a way, they are looking for a response from society, and they expect a response from society, and they use that response to guide their direction in a very, very healthy way, I think, on the whole. We move together. Sometimes in science, we can sit in an ivory tower and say, we're scientists, and we should be isolated from what's going on. We should be insulated from these processes.
But I guess the question is, can you draw a distinction between activities which would clearly be morally suspect and those which are perhaps have less of a value judgment attached to them because we just don't know what the outcome will be? Is that the question? Is do you essentially quarantine that area of science if you're not sure that it has at least some positive benefit?
I don't, from a personal point of view, I don't think that's for us to judge. I think it's for society to judge, and for us to judge as part of society, but not on our own. I don't think we can start to think about quarantining, putting boxes around things without advice.
Okay, I'm stopping just in case this turns into a separate Oxford v Cambridge subsection of the evening. And now we're running rapidly out of time, so I'm going to say to the panel, if you can keep your answers, if we get any more questions, quite short. And I also want to see if we can get a couple more points or questions. We'll go to this gentleman here, who I think might be the Science Festival Director, Simon Gage, in the front row.
Yeah, I'd just like to get your views on the pace at which this is all going to happen. So, Jim, you referred to the transistor, and then within 2 decades there was the early signs of a revolution. 4 decades, there was a total revolution. Quentin, you referred to artificial intelligence, which hasn't really, as far as I can see, gone very far.
That's having students like me, possibly.
Yeah, well, it's your point, not mine. So I would like to sort of get a feel for where the impetus is coming, where the drive is coming from, and perhaps mixing that in with the technical barriers that you will know about to give me some indication of whether I'm going to see a revolution before I retire.
And can I annex something that ties in from the point about that? Is there any possibility, as happened with artificial intelligence, we had a kind of hubristic setback. We realised it was a lot more complicated than we realised. Is it possible that actually when we come to put our bio blocks together, we actually go, actually, there's more to this than we thought?
Well, I think from my perspective anyway, we're not talking about recent activities as much as we're talking about 50 years, 60 years of activities which are giving us an insight into the way biological systems work. And we're now at a point where we've had 35 years of genetic engineering and experience with the nuts and bolts. What we're talking about here is not basic technology as much as the standardization and adoption of engineering principles to improve the speed at which we can do things. And I think certainly in some of the instances that we've been talking about, for example, in my field, modifying plant form, you can now see the path to doing that. And that's not to say that we can do it, but there's a route that's become available. So I think this is going to be quick.
Okay, and just briefly, Ben, if you want to comment as well?
I think, I don't want to cop out, but I think it's very hard to judge because of the lessons that history has taught us. So what I am aware of is that synthetic biology has become an amazing sort of melting pot. It's a cauldron of so many different ideas that are challenging things in a very dramatic way. We heard already that some people consider bits of biotechnology that have been around, that's not really synthetic biology, but people are taking chunks of that and fusing it with other aspects of biology, molecular biology, and new things are popping out, and it's wonderfully unpredictable.
Just one more aspect I want to bring in that hasn't come up spontaneously, but given that the title of the debate was about Scotland's next revolution, industrial revolution, is this a field that needs certain countries, certain places that Scotland could lead the way in? Joyce?
Yes, I think so, definitely. But I think it's not just going to be Scotland, it's going to be international, and Scotland has a big role to play. You need a lot of different disciplines to come together to do synthetic biology well. And we've got all the necessary disciplines in good quantity and good quality. And we've also got support for the science, and we've got support for translating that science through to products. So I think we've got an enormous amount of potential, but I wouldn't want to sound as if, you know, it's Scotland against the rest of the world. It's kind of Scotland with the rest, and I think we have to be global about this. We're no longer in a situation where, as in the First Enlightenment, where we can actually do it ourselves. You know, it has to be global.
But Richard, there is a tradition in science. Certain areas, certain countries do get good at certain things, and this is a relatively, although as we've heard, elements of this have been around for a long time. If there is a country that puts the mind into it, the resources into it, Scotland has a fantastic knowledge transfer network already. It has the potential. Is there any reason to hold it back from that?
I don't think there is any reason to hold it back. My anxiety about it, and I want to let it rip, is that every industrial revolution we've had has also discarded a previous group of people who were the workers in the previous form of industry. And we have a large discarded section of society in Scotland, and I hope that if we do go down this route, we will find ways of incorporating them so that the discarded communities don't just go on piling up. Whereas the highly educated, scientifically literate people get ahead with this, and the people from the old technologies are simply redundant. And I think that Scotland's not been very good at the moment at integrating the old with the new and bringing everyone through it.
Ben, Jim, is this slightly wishful thinking? Is synthetic biology for the world? Is it now going to be developing on a world stage, and it's not going to be something where we go, Scotland or Brazil or anywhere else like that will have a particular head start on?
I think it's certainly on the world stage, but because it's at this very early stage of the development of the field, places which have a coordinated approach, and it is highly interdisciplinary. It's what Ben was saying. There are new things coming together which we wouldn't have anticipated years ago, just a few years ago, and Scotland is well placed and well coordinated at this point.
So if the professorship of synthetic biology in Edinburgh comes up, you won't be averse to applying?
Of course not.